Don't you hate being told what to do? I know I do. But I've learned that sometimes you just need to listen and do what they say and just try to get it done as quick and easy as possible. And that's what we're doing here today. If you're on a strata in British Columbia and the government is telling you that you're required to get an electrical planning report done for your building, but then they won't tell you how much it costs because it depends, then fine. I'll just cut to the chase and tell you all the prices of the EPR for each size of building here today in this video. But first, if you're wondering who I am, my name's Trevor and I helped launch 2 successful EV charging startups. And the prices that I'm giving you today are a fairly accurate reference point, but if you're looking for a formal estimate for your strata, feel free to send me an email with your address and I'll reply with an official quote. Also, I'm sure I can get you a discount, so the cost in your quote will be less than the prices that you'll hear today. And we'll take care of everything for you. Easy peasy. My email's in the description below. All right, let's go. Okay, we're gonna get into the pricing first because that's what you're here for, but I just wanna say that it's important that you keep listening to the information after the pricing because there's some vital stuff in there that you'll need to know. All right, the pricing. Let's break the pricing down into different categories of strata buildings. The pricing mostly depends on the size of the building, the type of the building, and whether or not there's a commercial space included. Okay, first we're gonna start with mid-rise buildings. And these are over 3 stories, but under 125 units. All right, there's 4 categories here. So if your building has less than 50 units, the cost of the electrical planning report would be $5,800. If your building has less than 50 units, but also has a commercial space, then you're looking at $6,300. Now, if your mid-rise building is between 50 units and 124 units without a commercial space, then you're also looking at $6,300. And lastly, if your mid-rise building is between 50 units and 124 units with a commercial space, then you're looking at $6,700. Now let's go up a league and talk about high-rise buildings. And these are between 125 units and 500 units. So if your high-rise building has between 125 units and 200 units, then the cost would be $6,700 for the EPR. And if your high-rise has between 124 and 200 units, but also has a commercial space, then the cost would be $7,400. Next up, if your high-rise building has between 200 units and 337 units, then the cost would be $8,600. And if you're in the biggest league and your high-rise has more than 500 units, then the electrical planning report would cost $9,900. Okay, the third and last category of buildings is townhouses and row homes. I'm just gonna say townhouse to keep the category simple. So if your townhouse has between 1 and 50 units, then the cost would be $5,800. Next, if your townhouse has between 50 and 100 units, then the cost for the EPR would be $6,300. Then if your townhouse has between 100 and 150 units, then the cost of the EPR would be $7,100. And if you're in the biggest category of townhouses with over 150 units, then the cost for the EPR would be $7,900. As you can see, the costs scale up based on the size and the complexity of the building. Usually bigger buildings have more transformers, it will take more time on site and just requires more work overall. All right, now the important info that you'll need to know before moving forward. So where did these reports even come from? Well, now so many things are switching over from being gas to electric, like cars, water heaters, and heat pumps. So cities want to make sure that buildings are aware of how much power they have and help them plan for the future. And this is why EPRs were born. All right, so what exactly is an electrical planning report? Here are the highlights. The EPR is a professional assessment of your building's current electrical system and how it will hold up in the future. The report also gives you great advice on how you could improve the system if you wanted to. The report isn't telling you what to do. It's just a tool in your toolbox to help you plan for the future and see what your options are. So the Strata has more decision-making power. All right, so what's in the report? There are 5 main things that make up the report. First is current capacity. So how much power you currently have in the building. Second is existing demand. So what's using all your power? Is it EV charging, cooling, heating, lights, elevators? And how much spare capacity do you have left over? Third is future needs. So how much more power you might need in the future for things like EV chargers and electric equipment. Fourth is advice for reducing demand. So doing things to reduce the amount of power you're using, like switching to LED lights, for example. And the fifth one is potential upgrades. So suggestions on how you could improve the system if you did need more power. The report mostly focuses on EV charging, heating, and cooling, but it's not a quote. And it's also not telling you what you need to do. And it's also not an EV ready plan, which I'll get to a little later. All right, lastly, when is the deadline that Strata needs to obtain this report? This deadline is December 31st, 2026. And unfortunately, Strata can't vote to avoid the plan or defer it. But the good news is, once you get it done, you only need to get it done once. It's always kind of annoying when the government tells you what you need to do, but the great news is there's actually a lot of benefits that are in this report for the Strata. Knowledge is power, right? The report has such valuable information for the Strata that it can help a building solve problems ahead of time, save money, save time, and make better decisions, which will ultimately increase the value of the building. All right, now how do you pay for this thing? Well, the EPR can be paid through either the operating fund or the contingency reserve fund. Another thing to consider is sometimes it's helpful to hop on a Zoom call or a Google Meet call between the Strata and myself just to answer questions, make sure everybody's on the same page, and I'm happy to do that if you need. I mentioned the EV Ready plan earlier, and often I'll hear, isn't the EV Ready plan and the electrical planning report the same thing? They sound pretty similar. Not exactly. The purpose of the reports are different. An electrical planning report provides an overview of your electrical system and helps Strata plan for the future. And this report is required by law. Whereas an EV Ready plan is specifically for EV charging, and it's more of a quote to move forward with a defined project. The EV Ready plan is not required by law. It exists more for the purpose of applying for rebates to install EV charging infrastructure. And speaking of EV Ready plan, if you need to get an EV Ready plan done for your building, the cost for all Stratas is $4,500. And again, I can get you a discount on this. And I should mention that unfortunately, there's no rebates for the electrical planning report, but there definitely is for the EV Ready plan. For the EV Ready plan, BC Hydro offers up to 75% or $3,000 of the cost of the EV Ready plan. So in this case, it would cost you less than $1,500. And lastly, I'll say that if you get the EV Ready plan and the electrical planning report done at the same time, I can definitely offer you a package deal and reduce the price even further. It just makes things easier with labor hours on site because they can be done at the same time. Again, if you have questions or need any help, feel free to give me a shout. My email is contact@strongenergy-ev.com. Also, I'd love if you were to subscribe to the channel and keep following the journey. Thanks so much for checking in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.